Hello, Gish here, and welcome to the show. You ever start playing a co-op game with friends, only to realize you maybe shouldn't have agreed not to play past where you get together? Well, that's me with BG3 right now. So to fulfill my desire to play during our December hiatus, I attempted to get my way through Act 1 in Honor Mode, and here's what happened. For those unaware, Honor Mode is a difficulty mode added to Baldur's Gate to be even harder than Tactician. The main differences are that stuff costs more, bosses get special abilities, and your party getting wiped out means losing the run. Plus, the game doesn't allow you to reload your saves, so you're heavily punished if you try to do too much science and things get out of hand. So first things first, say hello to our starting character, a wood half-elf fighter. A fighter because I want the main character to be beefy for when they get in trouble, and wood half-elf because the extra move speed is always really nice on melee characters. I named our fighter Gish3, but honestly this is probably more like the 5th or 6th character by now. I didn't record all of my earlier attempts, so oh well. After getting our tadpole schlorped into our brain space, I just grab the gang and kill all the mooks. And I really mean all of them. That includes the wandering intellect devourer. More on that later. For our final showdown on this boat, I make sure Shadowheart has command prepared, as this lets us get Commander Zulk to drop his flaming greatsword and yoink it for our main character. Afterwards, we safely crash on the beach. Now, remember how I said that killing that intellect devourer was important? Well, if you don't, then you're still level 1 when you pick up Shadowheart from the beach, making the intellect devourer triple threat much more deadly. After Skyping with Astarion, getting Gale out of a jam, and making Lae'zel leave her treehouse, the next order of business is to help out with the battle at the gates. I led us up this rock since it seemed to be the best starting position for the fight, and the fight goes pretty smoothly. The camp leader is eager to get behind the gates, but there's just one problem. While we may have slain the goblins right in front of us, the loot goblin in my heart will never die. After we finish our important business with the pinatas, Will joins up with us, and the flaming lockpick nets us some gold on our way to talk to the bears and snake lady. Now that the child is safe from the snake, it's time to forget about turning in that quest for the next couple of levels. Next, we head off to free Withers from his box, making sure to pick some chests in the door with our flaming lockpick. It's just the economical option. Looting the scribes isn't just to satisfy my urges, it also keeps them from having weapons during the fight. So I push the button and the rumble gets started. Now, I haven't managed it consistently, but if you position just right, the darkness is placed such that the enemies walk right through the door. And when this happens, you can do the fight without even taking damage. We weren't so lucky this time, but legends deal double damage against these old bones, so they still go down pretty easy. Alright, I gave Astarion a level of monk since he'll be having a career change to bard soon enough. Gale gets replaced with Will for now, since what I really want is a warlock sorcerer hybrid. Our friendly neighborhood cultists realize that we're not in the same gang as them, so they get mauled and burned to death by Shadowheart. At this point, walking into Goblinville is enough to put our heroes at level 3. This is pretty great, but from here on out, leveling is going to be a lot more complicated than killing a walking brain and waltzing into a town. I'll get into build stuff later, but for now it's time to grab some Gale Chow, and then head off to get our 4 key magic items for level 3. So we head off to the real goblin camp. We learn the secret handshake, and then negotiate the terms of our travel to the Underdark. It's sad, but this will be the last time Astarion uses his Fists of Fury. So after playing Twister, we find ourselves in the Underdark, though our party is blind. So we don't get the luminous armor quite yet, and instead head back topside to run into a burning building. While we're here, we raid the kitchen, pilfer the hammer raft, and are rewarded with the real item we came here for, the Spell Sparkler, as it will be a great boon to our magic missile master. With our post-Inferno downtime, I make sure to feed Gale, Astarion changes to a music major, and Shadowheart updates her subclass. With the burning house and respecking out of the way, we head back to the Underdark for a while. The top priority is getting the Luminous Armor and Phalar Luve, as these will be Shadowheart's core items for most of the run. There's a little hitch with the armor since the party was too blind to see the secret door, but it's nothing a bit of jumping and percussive problem solving can't solve. After we get the Screaming Sword, we're almost in go mode for this level. The last key piece is in the Myconid colony, so we tangle with the Minotaurs to avoid the big fat bullet for now, and arrive at the Myconid colony, ready to nab that last key item. While we're there, we make friends with Mr. Glut, and we're so excited we forget to get the Psychic Spark, which is what we came there for. Instead, we head out back to recruit a dog to our party. With the dog in tow, we hoof it back to Blurg to nab the Psychic Spark, and now we're basically as strong as we're going to be this level. Filro and the rest of the dogs are the only foes we slay before heading back topside. Even with us at max power for level 3, the Spectator, Drugger Beach Fight, and Arcane Tower still feel like a bit much. Plus our meat shield glut will leave us once we do the beach fight, so I grab the sussur bark and boogie on back topside. In post, I realized that I never did fight the goblins near the windmill or the 2 people shagging in the hut. Not sure how much it'd really be worth, but there were a few close calls for hitting level thresholds that may have been made easier had I not skipped these. Anyways, we make friends with Karlach and have a conversation with the paladins that are hunting her. After raiding this pantry too, Karlach gets demoted back to side character and Astarion comes back into the fold. I choose to make a sussur dagger for the quest EXP and then head to Hyena Hill. On the way, Gale demands more snacks even though I already gave him the necklace for the Minotaurs earlier in the day. And on top of that, Will's mom comes to scold him before bedtime. Anyways, I opt for a show of strength to kick off the battle. Shadowheart continues her duty as a bless bot and sword holder, while the rest of the party goes to town. By the end of it, our heroes hit level 4. Gish 3 takes Athlete to greatly improve jump distance and hit 18 strength. Shadowheart takes Battlecaster in preparation for her role as a Beyblade, and Astarion nabs Actor to hit 18 Charisma and get some nice skill expertises. There's not much to say about Will since he doesn't get a feat, but I did realize that he hasn't actually been wearing any armor for a while. I had removed his light armor since his Draconic Sorcerer armor works better, and never put the clothes back on him. Anyways, my main goal for level 4 is basically still just a level up. My previous run ended when trying to fight the Draugr on the way to Grimforge, and rather than back down from the fight, I decided it would probably go a lot better with doubled attacks and Shadowheart's Beyblade form, so the quest for experience continues. And to help with that quest, I decided to recruit a hireling to be a buff bot. The main thing they do is just cast Aiden Longstrider at the beginning of the day, though technically they're also casting Poison Resist, even if it isn't all that useful. Anyways, our party heads to the Zentrim hideout to nab a quest. We talk our way out of getting blowed up, but for some reason he starts attacking us out of nowhere. More on that out of nowhere later, cause at the time I didn't realize what had happened, and didn't bother to really check it out. After resolving that argument, we run past him and nab a quest to make sure some important cargo gets back here unopened. During the ensuing fight, we find ourselves with an extra party member to help us on the quest, but after the fight, she's too hungry to stick around, so we move on without her. That quest can't be turned in until after a long nap, so our heroes head down under. The next stop is the Spectator. Our favorite dog is too big to fit through the people door, so our good boy finds his own way down. While this is kind of a boss fight, there's not too much to say about it. Just hit it till it dies, and then when the leftover drow pick a fight with us, we do the same to them. And then finally head back to the ruins to take care of the explorers there. The ogres are next on the chopping block, and afterwards I head to the basement to bludgeon skeletons taking naps. Astarion smooth talks his way past the mirror, and so we find the Necronomicon. However, we won't be using it anytime soon. The item to complete the book is with the spider boss, and quite frankly, the spider boss scares me, so I'm putting it off for at least a level or 2. I decide to go turn in the Zentrim quest, which unlocks a special stock of magic items. The standout here is the Gloves of Thievery, which give advantage on sleight of hand checks. Partly due to its low price, this is one of the few items I choose to buy before hitting the level 5 proficiency boost. Next on this list is a bullet who can't handle hammer time, and afterwards, the Arcane Tower. To avoid triggering the beach fight, I opt to go through the path that leads to the Spectator fight, though honestly, I don't know if this is really necessary. Unlike the bullet, the turrets are pretty good at handling hammer time, so the next strategy is to cheese them out with my Resident Warlock, which is effective but ended up being quite slow. I fire up the tower with some flower power and then make my way to the top. The important thing to do here is to read some important books. If you do, you can actually get past the Guardian at the top without even fighting him. Though before realizing that, I opt to make all the haste potions I can just in case I need them. The main magic items of note here are the Club of Hill Giant Strength and the Staff of Arcane Blessing, though truth be told, I haven't found a good use for the club yet since the competition is just too good. After returning to our favorite mind player, Gish 3 volunteers to be experimented on, and I put off buying anything from Omelum since the min-maxer in me knows that I can just wait till I hit level 5. Anyways, I saved the Mushroom Man at some point and I'm now getting around to turning in his quest. And now it's time to annihilate the Draugr at the beach since at this point the Underdark is pretty experience sparse. There's not too much to say about this fight. The main misstep here is that I let Glut die during the fight instead of just leaving him mostly dead. But since him and the dog were taking most of the damage, the crew wasn't really at risk. Next on the chopping block are these small-ish spiders, turning in the quest to save that kid from 2 levels ago, and preventing Nadira's assassination. Then we save Mirkin from the Harpies, and we're getting pretty close to level 5, so I decide to start investigating Kaga for that last little bit. After some light bonking to collect evidence, we eventually convince Kaga that the Edgelord Druids are bad using the power of friendship. Remember this. The Shadow Druids go down, so I let the Loot Goblin in me take over and scavenge through the pinatas. And then it happens. What? All the Druids aggro on me, and I mean all of them. Even the ones outside. This is where I take a step back to figure out what's happening. The run seems over, so the least I can do is rewind to see where I went wrong. And then I see it, an explanation for both this and the Zentrum guard that just randomly aggroed on me. When friendship expires, people turn on you apparently. So with the truth unlocked, the only thing left to do is play this out, and hope that after we murderize these druids that we'll be able to get out of here fine. Most of our heroes go down, or get pretty close, making this one of the closer fights in this run, though we ultimately prevail and hit level 5. Now this is where go mode for the act really starts. No more leveling thresholds to really hold us back. Gish 3 gets an extra attack. Shadowheart unlocks the power to let it rip. And Astarion has maxed out his persuasion for Act 1. After getting confirmation that the druids won't attack me on sight, we heal a bird and then begin the big shopping trip of the act. So I reset Astarion's level back to 1 for the cheap attitude gains, and then level him back up for the shopping spree. I slightly over-income Astarion, and he gets to selling all the stuff I've been hoarding up until now. From Dareth, I nabbed the Caustic Ring, Heavy Armor, Ring of Jumping, Amulet of Restoration, Herbalist Gloves, and some miscellaneous alchemy ingredients. From Amelum, I nabbed the Shadespell Circlet, Ring of Mind Shielding, Ring of Salving, Boots of Stormy Clamor, which will be a core item for our new Beyblade, the Pearl of Power Amulet, which I ended up not actually using at all in Act 1, and some Elixir of Psychic Resistance. From Blurg, I nabbed just the Boots of Genial Striding and Lifebringer, which is the lightning head thingy for now. And lastly, nabbed the Boots of Aid and Comfort from Grat. To get the story back on the road, I heckle Volo a bit and then spring him from jail. Volo kindly swaps out my weak flesh eye for a strong magic eye, and the crew gets ready to set out for Grimforge, until I realize Will has a stat distribution problem. He's still got his original base stats, so not only is his armor class on the low side, but the 13s just have wasted points. So I decide to tag in Gale, since it's been a while since he rolled with the crew. He respecs to Warlock 2, Sorcerer 3, and we finally set out. Time for revenge. The main thing I'm concerned about is Gish 3 getting pushed off the boat and instantly dying. So I have Gale hex Grayman's strength to make pushing harder. And then it's time to let it rip for the first time in the run. Past that, the fight goes mostly well. I do have some issues holding concentration, but no one, except Shadowheart, even falls below half HP. A pretty good win after the run ender this was the last time. That said, we did burn through a lot of spells and such, so I opt to head back to the beach to long rest before landing in Grimforge. Once there, the group fights with the Herdmaster on the way to clear the upstairs, though there's not much else to say here. Jumping helps with avoiding traps and crossing large gaps, and magic items provide the Misty Step needed to get the Protect the Sparks wall? Wait, is that really what it's called? Anyways, the rest is just a matter of jumping about and cutting down whatever gets in the way. When the crew gets to Philomene, I leave a few people behind just in case the talk goes nuclear, but Astarion is able to handle the conversation pretty easily. For now, I avoid using the Adamantine Forge. Grimforge is one of the few places where time does matter, since Nier will die before you can fight him if you take too long. I'll almost certainly have to long rest if I tango with the Grim, so instead, their crew just collects Mithril and heads back to town. Now it's time to start clearing out the Draugr. But first, I make sure to assassinate the floating eye thingy. If you talk to Elder Brithvar, he suggests the floating eyes is how the Absolute is doing surveillance. So if we want to do anything that ought not be seen, he suggests we assassinate them first. Though, honestly, I have no idea if this really even matters. Anyways, the basic plan is to go bonking from the docks to where Nier is, so that we only take on little groups one at a time. To save on resources on my main crew, I enlist the help of some of the meatheads.
Shit! You did it!
Well, not yet, my dude. As a fellow science lover, I can't bring myself to bop Stonemason Kith, so him and his buddy get to live to see another day. Instead, I make the next big miscalculation of the run. It'll be fine. Never mind. You know how I was concerned about falling to my death in the boat fight? Well, Gish 3 almost meets her demise right here, and then they try to finish her off while she's down. It is at this point that Gale starts drinking performance-enhancing substances as well. On her turn, Lae'zel saves Gish 3 with a potion throw. Note, that I did not target the character directly in this situation. As best I can tell, you can actually miss when you target a character directly, so instead I target the ground nearby and heal with the splash. This seems to be a situation where jumping can't cut it, so thankfully Gish 3 has a Misty Step as an out. And honestly, the rest of the fight isn't too stressful. Most of the crew stay around half HP or lower for the rest of the fight, but there isn't a point where the run feels like it may be over. Eventually the crew prevails, and after a quick nap, Nier isn't in any trouble. Though I do wish he wasn't able to kill a gnome during the cutscene. I definitely would have just attacked him on sight if given the option. With the time crunch out of the way, it's time to turn in a bunch of quests before facing Grim, the adamantine golem. My main idea is to try cheesing him with just a ton of bludgeoning damage. So I grab Karlach to tank as Barbarian, train Lae'zel and Will as monks, and give Gish 3 a big hammer to bonk him with. Karlach's job is to set off his AoE before everyone runs in. And I forgot to give Karlach a weapon. This is going to suck. If I don't attack, she'll drop rage and won't set off his AoE. So I roll with the punches and fist him to get the job done. And now Gish 3 doesn't have a place to stand. Gish resists fire, so the lava can't be too bad, right? Well, at least he's on 1/3 health. Oh boy. The fight quickly devolves after that. Most of our heroes are really just running around for their lives without even dealing any damage. The only thing that saves the run is my reserve of haste potions. With 1 dead and 2 on the verge of death, Grim just barely goes down. The only adamantine equipment worth crafting for my team is the shield. I can use Grim's helmet for Gish 3, Shadowheart is locked into luminous armor for the foreseeable future, and my casters don't really want heavy or medium armor. Though, even if they had proficiency in armor, it'd still be at the cost of other special effects, like in Shadowheart's case. After a well-deserved nap, our main crew sets out to clean up some of the fights we skipped over before. There's not too much to talk about here except for the hag fight. I had seen somewhere that if you knock out a transformed character, they can be executed without transforming. So I try to bonk onto Ethel, but it doesn't work. Maybe it was patched out or made not to work in Honor Mode specifically. Anyways, I really don't want to do her boss fight properly, so that was a bit of a disappointment. All is not lost though. While Hold Person won't work since she's Fey, Dissonant Whispers is here to save the day. Dissonant Whispers won't paralyze her, but it can still frighten her. Frighten allows the target to teleport, but she still can't walk that last little bit to the door. So Gish 3 bonks her for level 6. The level ups this time around are only straightforward for our fighter. Everyone else gets tweaked around a bit. Shadowheart's build revolves around the concentration spell Spirit Guardians. Concentration checks require constitution saving throws, and clerics aren't proficient in constitution saves. See the problem? So I changed her first level to Sorcerer, the only full caster with proficiency in constitution saves. For Gale, the issue is more straightforward. Getting his first feat is nice, but being able to twin cast haste seems much better. So I swap a Warlock level for a Sorcerer one. Astarian's armor class has been pretty low, and that coupled with him being the only critical member seems to have all the enemies targeting him. So I nab him medium armor and shield proficiency by changing his first level to Cleric. Anyways, it's been long enough. It's time to let it rip on the Goblin Camp. Damn. I sent the crew on a heist so that we can get the Ring of Protection, but other than that, Act 1 doesn't have too much left to talk about. Honestly, at this point, most fights are just really easy. The crew clears out some remaining fights, convinces Esther that the moneybags don't know what a Gith egg looks like, and I cheese our way through the saves needed for the Zathisk with some Druid Paladin Bard shenanigans. So after using the Cult of Boal to hit level 7, it's time to just say no to killing our Astral Prism companion. The fight with the Inquisitor is the last real fight of Act 1, mostly since Gale can't hide off screen while Shadowheart and Gish 3 run over everyone while hasted. The fight doesn't look that close, but if they had targeted Gale and haste had dropped, the run could have easily ended while Shadowheart and Gish 3 were lethargic from the backlash. Plus, if people had started hitting Gale, he'd have gone down pretty quickly. The only fatality in the crash was me dumbly leading the crew into a trap on the way to grab the Boots of Lathander. After that, the rest of the Gith went down pretty quickly. So we talked to Gale's sensei, and Act 1 is done. please do all the YouTube stuff like subscribing and liking and all that. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.